Hello everyone. So this is how to Dockerize FastAPI so that you can have a bespoke front end with HTML and JavaScript rather than Flask or anything like that. So what I've got here is a Docker container, and inside that I will have I'm going to run, bear with me on this because it's probably unorthodox and not the best way of doing it, but it works, and for proof of concept I'm happy with that. So it's not always about perfection, it's about having something that works. Apache and Uvicorn. Now Apache will be running the JavaScript and the HTML for my front end, which looks like this. So that's going to be JS HTML. And Uvicorn will be running FastAPI. FastAPI. So that's just going to be running kind of the back end bit that nobody sees. But should you wish to contact that from something else or from another front end or whatever, it's always going to be in the back running there. So this is all inspired, or not really, not so much inspired, but made possible due to a very good article, which I'll put the link to in the description. How to deploy FastAPI with Nginx and Supervisor. Supervisor is the key word here. If you've not come across Supervisor, it's allowed me to do something which I thought I might have to abandon and then go back to using Flask API. Flask. Nothing wrong with Flask, but sometimes it's, I don't know, nice to use fully fledged JavaScript. So what is Supervisor? Supervisor is basically allowing me, if I go over to VSCode, you can see a few error messages here, but basically if I scroll up, Supervisor is basically running in the background. I've got a file, supervisord.conf, and inside that I have had to put, if I go in attached shell, and you can see a few sort of naughty messages saying about me doing stuff with root, but right, let's go to etc. supervisor conf.d, and this is what makes it all possible. So I've got running on port 8000, I've got my Uvicorn app with the standard kind of app.main:app running on host quad 0 port 8000, and this is probably a sledgehammer to crack a nut, but I've got Apache running on port 8080. So if you see what I've got here, this, I don't know if that's too small, but that's actually port 8080. So if we go in, so Apache, just move that. Apache's running on 8080, and then Uvicorn is 8000. So what it allows me to do is to go to port 8080, load the nice web page, which is then making a fetch request using JavaScript. So if I show you that, and it's already run, so yeah, results okay, subnet okay, network. I'm gonna have to run it again, aren't I? Let me just refresh this. So again, I'm just doing my defaults. This should return subnets don't overlap. And then you can see it's done a fetch using my submit vars action.js, and it's gone off and sent this payload, and it's sent me back this response. And this is all using Docker. So if you look up here, I'm running the Docker extension in vscode, as I've mentioned in the last video. I've created an image. I've created a Ubuntu, a light Ubuntu image, which then allowed me to go in and install wget curl git. So then I clone my repo from git. So if we come out of that, I don't know if it's in the history, but actually, let me just show you the site which I referred to, which really was a big help, because up until that point, I thought I was doing something really odd, and it doesn't. With APIs, you're supposed to kind of like run with Docker, just run. Oh, I don't know if this is going to load because I'm using up my Medium credits. There we go. So let me just zoom in on that. And what Travis was doing was running a client, which is my HTML JavaScript. He was running Nginx, but I'm going to run Apache just because I'm more familiar with it. I guess Nginx is possibly more lightweight. G-Unicorn, so I'm running Uvicorn. So, and Supervisor and FastAPI. So his diagram, I could almost, let me just screenshot that. And I'll just basically show you. Copy to clipboard. Let me just paste that in here. Let me do a new. We'll do a new diagram here. I'm starting to get used to. Is it pasting it in? Hopefully. Right, there we go. So. Yeah, what Travis did, I don't know him personally, so but I hope you don't mind me calling him by his first name. So that is Apache, and that is Uvicorn, and then I've still got FastAPI, the supervisor. So if we just, oh, this is not going to let me, because it's on Medium and I'm not signed up or whatever, but effectively the important part was to run the, let me just call up that file again. Yeah, so you run the supervisor daemon, which runs this, or basically it's running USR, SB, and Apache 2 CTL -D foreground, auto restart true. To start with, I didn't have these lines, which once I'd copied and pasted this from Travis's article, it started working. RPC interface, supervisor, RPC interface underscore factory, all that, you can see that yourself. Don't need to read it out, do I? Then program app is just a name, user is root, that's probably a bad thing. I should change that. Commands, Uvicorn app.main.app. So I've put all my code in a directory on the Docker container. How did I do that? First I installed wget and curl, and then I installed pip. I installed git. Once I installed git, I cloned my repo from GitHub. So all the code that you've been seeing in the past two videos, I cloned onto this Docker container. Let's go to home, ls cd to app. There you go, and you can see I've got main.py, which you've been seeing in the previous couple of videos, and functions.py. And also cd, is it var? Where's Apache? Yeah, I'm a bit old school. I remember Apache from back in the day, so I'm a bit more familiar with it. If anybody thinks Nginx or any, I've not really paid much attention to Nginx or Apache or anything like that in recent times. So yeah, those are my three. Those are my three files there: Action.js, index, and styles. So those three files are running on Apache. Here. I'll get rid of that. And then I'm getting a response. So all of that is actually happening inside Docker. And all I'm doing is I'm running Docker on my machine, but to all intents and purposes, that Docker image could be running on a remote server. And because it's using its local host IP, as long as I put in the IP address of the remote server there, followed by 8080, fingers crossed, I should get this come up. So it'll be running a Docker image. So yeah, it'll be running FastAPI, Python, Apache, and that's all kind of the front end stuff. And obviously in the back end, I've installed Python, Poetry. From Poetry, and installed the TOML, everything that was in the TOML file, and so on and so on. So yeah, this is kind of the success story follow-up to the previous video, which I was apprehensive about embarking on this because I thought I could make a real dog's dinner of it, but in the end it wasn't too bad. Rather than kind of script it all, I did actually semi-manually download the Ubuntu image, and then I'll show you the cheating way. If you've got VS Code, you can just right click. So VS Code, download, what was it? The real basic Docker commands that I've already forgotten. But once you've got your Docker container, you can then control it all from within VS Code. So you've got the Docker icon, which is an extension, and then you can stop, start, open in browser. So view the logs, that's really useful. And yeah, attach shell. So that's what I've done here. I've attached the shell. So when you attach a shell to your Docker container, then that gives you access to all this good stuff here. Yeah, all the Docker stuff is all kind of on the FastAPI. So FastAPI Tiangolo, and on his GitHub page as well. So yeah, it's all there. The documentation for this is just phenomenal, isn't it? Oh, am I spelling Docker file? FastAPI and containers. Yeah, next I probably need to put some authentication on this. I've been kind of putting that off because it's the less fun part, but obviously the important thing if you're going to deploy. So how to build a Docker image for FastAPI, package requirements. So yeah, that's using pip and requirements, as say the difference being I'm using Poetry, but it's not. I'll show you later. There we go. I'll show you an example using Poetry later in the section below. TLS, yeah, so no security yet. So building a Docker image, Docker build, my -t, my image. Yeah, and when I run my image, the only difference, if I run it manually, is I do all this, but then I do port 8080 for app, and then I do, it wasn't port 8080, it was port 8000 to 8000 for my app, and then it's followed by 8080:8080 for Apache. Let me just see if I've still got that in my history. I'm going to go and document a lot of this while it's still fresh in my memory, because you know what will happen. Go in and do something else, and then you just forget everything, and it's. That was what I did to actually. No, that was when I was testing. In fact, you can actually see the syntax to run it. If you go to Is it in view logs? Can't remember. No, it's not. But view logs is useful. Restart is useful. At one point, I found that I was getting kind of in a right muddle with. It seemed like I was running out of ports, or I was getting issues with ports. So I just restarted my machine, and that kind of got me back to where I was. Inspect. I've not tried inspect. What does that do? Oh, that brings up that brings up a JSON file with lots of, yeah. I'll let you read that. It's there if you want it. So yeah, I'm going against kind of my ethos really, because I'm using GUI to do all this, but it's for speed really, because I need to get this done so that I can kind of get the proof of concept approved and get cracking with, you know, fleshing it out a bit and actually turn it into a proper piece of software. So you can see the ports there. So whatever you do, don't delete your image, because your container needs the image. If I go on that, I wonder if it gives me any info on that. Inspect. I didn't give it a tag. That might give us some information as well. That's probably going to show that it's what Ubuntu image it is, maybe. Yeah, there we go. Image Ubuntu. Name. That's just some comedy name that it makes up on the fly, isn't it? Docker version. So there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that you may or may not be interested in, but Docker's not my main kind of concern. I don't want to go too deep into Docker at this stage. I just want to, my priority is to make it work. I'm more interested in the Python code. As you know, this channel is Python 360. So yeah, I'm pleased that I've got that working. And this, if we go back to the diagram, can I make that full screen? That's what we've actually or have achieved. Is client talks to Apache, which talks to Uvicorn, which talks to FastAPI, talks to Supervisor, and that is all inside Docker. So if you want to comment, ask any questions, feel free, send me an email. My email address is in the about thing on the YouTube channel page. So yeah, catch you soon. Thanks for watching.